Cancel your appointment and come clean the house. It's the least you can do, my daughter-in-law said. When I answered no, she stood up and screamed in front of everyone. You're worthless. I grabbed my purse and walked out without looking back. Days later, she lost everything. Those words came out of my daughter-in-law Sabrina's mouth, as if they were the most natural thing in the world. We were in the middle of my granddaughter Sophia's birthday party, surrounded by 30 guests, purple balloons everywhere, and the sweet smell of the birthday cake I had baked myself since 5 in the morning. I had the phone pressed to my ear. On the other end, Mr. Wallace, the antiques appraiser, had just offered me $90,000 for the opal necklace I inherited from my mother. $90,000. It was my salvation, my only way to have something of my own. After 12 years of feeling like a stranger in my own home, but Sabrina didn't care. She planted herself in front of me in those black patent leather heels she always wears to look taller, more powerful. Her expensive perfume hit my nose. Margaret, are you listening to me? The kitchen is a disaster. Cancel that ridiculous call and get to cleaning. It's the least you can do after we give you a roof over your head. I felt something inside me break. Or perhaps it was set free. I lowered the phone. I looked Sabrina straight in the eyes. And for the first time in 12 years, in 4,380 days of humiliation, I said, no. The silence that followed was deafening. The guests stopped talking. Even the music seemed to quiet down. Sabrina blinked twice, as if she hadn't understood. What did you say? I said, no, Sabrina. I'm on an important call. Her face transformed. Surprise turned into a fury I had never seen. She shot up from her chair so fast she knocked it over. The sound of metal on the floor made Sophia jump. And then she screamed. She screamed for everyone to hear. You're worthless. You are a useless burden, just taking up space in this house. The birthday cake I had prepared with so much love was still untouched on the table. The purple balloons swayed in the breeze. My granddaughter Sophia looked at me with tears in her eyes. And my son Matthew, my only son, remained seated, his eyes fixed on his plate as if nothing was happening. I picked up my brown leather purse, the one Arthur gave me on our 30th anniversary. I ran my hand over the worn leather, feeling its familiar texture, its promise of better times. I looked one last time at Matthew, waiting. I don't know what I was waiting for anymore. And I left. I walked through the guests with my head held high. Even though inside I felt like I was crumbling. I heard the murmurs, the pitying glances, the uncomfortable silence I left in my wake. I didn't look back. What none of them knew, what Sabrina never imagined while she screamed at me in front of everyone, was that the call she interrupted wasn't just any call. Mr. Wallace was waiting for my answer about the opal necklace. Those iridescent stones that shined with all the colors of the rainbow, the same ones my mother gave me on her deathbed, telling me, keep these for when you really need them. That moment had arrived. But what happened next, what I discovered in the following days, was much worse than anyone could imagine. And Sabrina, with all her venom and arrogance, had no idea that that scream, that insult in front of 30 witnesses, had just sealed her fate. If you have ever been made to feel worthless in your own home, stay until the end of this story. Because what's coming, nobody saw coming. And if this confession is striking a chord with you, subscribe to the channel to keep sharing. Stories like this, stories that need to be told. I arrived at Helen's house with dry eyes. The tears had run out on the way. She opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. She just hugged me. But to understand how I got to that moment, To that scream that broke me in two in front of 30 people, I need to go back. I need to tell you how a 68-year-old woman, the owner of her own home, ended up feeling like an unpaid servant in the place she built with her husband. It all started 12 years ago when Arthur died. It was a Tuesday. A Tuesday in October, when the sky was so blue it seemed fake. Arthur was watering the rose bushes in the garden, those fuchsia flowers he loved so much, when he just stopped. The heart attack was massive. He didn't even have time to call for me. I found him there among the flowers, the hose still in his hand. The first few months were a hell of silence. The house felt huge, empty, filled with the ghosts of conversations we would never have. Matthew came to visit me every weekend, worried, affectionate. He brought Sabrina and Sophia, who was just 6 months old then. "Mom, you can't stay alone in this big house," Matthew would say while pouring coffee. "Why don't we share the space? That way, you won't be alone, and we could save on rent from our apartment." It sounded reasonable. It sounded like love. How naive I was. In the beginning, Sabrina was a different person. Considerate, even affectionate. She helped me with dinner, asked how I had slept, hugged me when she saw me looking sad. I thought I had gained not just a daughter-in-law, but a daughter. The transformation was gradual, so slow I didn't see it coming. It started with little things. A comment about my cooking. "Oh, Margaret, don't you think you used a little too much salt?" Then about how I dressed. "At your age, you should wear more discreet colors, don't you think?" Then about my friends from the quilting group. "Those women just go to gossip. You're wasting your time." When Sophia turned 1, Sabrina quit her job to dedicate myself to the baby, she said. But the one who ended up taking care of Sophia was me. The one who woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with her crying. The one who prepared her baby food, changed her diapers, sang her to sleep. Sabrina's going out with her friends because I need a break. Margaret, being a mother is exhausting. And I stayed silent because I loved my granddaughter, because I thought this is how families were supposed to be, supporting each other. But there was one day that marked the true beginning of my nightmare. Sophia was 3. I was making lunch when I heard the noise. Sabrina had deliberately spilled her cup of coffee on the kitchen floor. I saw her do it. Our eyes met. "Oh, I'm so clumsy," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Margaret, can you clean this up? After all, you don't work. You have all the time in the world." Something in her tone chilled my blood. It wasn't a request. It was an order disguised as an accident. I cleaned the coffee, and the next day, I cleaned up another accident and another and another. The following years were a downward spiral I didn't know how to escape. I was assigned tasks as if I were part of the house's inventory. Cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wash everyone's clothes. Iron Matthew's shirts and Sabrina's dresses. Clean the 3 bathrooms. Mop, dust, tidy up. Meanwhile, Sabrina and Matthew went out to fancy restaurants. They traveled to Miami, Las Vegas, and on Caribbean cruises. They came back tanned and happy with suitcases full of new clothes. "Mom, I brought you this shawl." I saw it and thought of you, Matthew would say, handing me something that was clearly the cheapest thing in the souvenir shop. I would smile and fold it in my tiny closet. Because, yes, my closet was tiny. 8 years ago, Sabrina came into my bedroom, the master bedroom, the one I had shared with Arthur for 35 years. "Margaret, we need this room. It's bigger and Matthew needs space for his home office. You'll be more comfortable in the storage room off the laundry." It's cozy. The storage room 10 feet by 8 feet next to the laundry, where the noise from the washer woke me up every morning at 6. Where the heat was unbearable in the summer because it had no fan. Where the smell of detergent seeped into my clothes, my hair, my lungs. But the room wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the loneliness. My only refuge was Thursdays. Every Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I met with my quilting group at Helen's house. We were 6 ladies, all widows or divorced, all with stories to tell while we quilted blankets, placemats, shirts. Sabrina hated those Thursdays. "You're going out again. Sophia needs you," she'd say, even though Sophia was perfectly fine playing on her tablet. "You're so selfish, Margaret. You only think about yourself." But I went. It was the only thing I had left of myself. Until 3 months ago, something happened that should have opened my eyes for good. It was my birthday, 68 years old. I asked Sabrina a month in advance if I could use the living room to invite my friends from the quilting group. We just wanted to have coffee, eat cake, chat. "Of course, Margaret, it's your house too," she said with that perfect smile I had learned to distrust. The day of my birthday, I came home from grocery shopping. I opened the door and found the living room full of Sabrina's friends. Loud music, bottles of wine, appetizers everywhere. "Margaret, just in time," Sabrina shouted over the music. "We organized a last-minute get-together. Can you bring us more ice?" My friends were waiting for me at Helen's house. I had to call them to cancel. Something came up. I told them, my voice breaking. Helen didn't believe me. "Margaret, what is going on in that house?" "Nothing." "Helen, everything is fine." But nothing was fine. And that day, while I served ice to Sabrina's friends in my own living room on my birthday, something inside me began to die. Or maybe it began to wake up, because 3 months later, on Sophia's birthday, when Sabrina screamed at me in front of everyone that I was worthless, that part of me that had been asleep, humiliated, and trampled on for 12 years, finally said enough. Helen opened the door for me at 8 o'clock at night. She was wearing her flowered cotton robe, the one she wears when she's not expecting visitors, and her reading glasses hung from a gold chain. One look at my face was all it took for me to know she had been waiting for me. "Come in, Margaret. The tea is already on." She didn't ask what happened. Helen has that wisdom that only 70 years of life and 40 of friendship can give. She knew I would talk when I was ready. I sat in her kitchen at that wooden table where we had quilted so many afternoons, where we had cried for our dead husbands, where we had laughed until our stomachs hurt. The smell of chamomile tea wrapped around me like a hug. She screamed at me. I finally said in front of 30 people. She said I was worthless. Helen poured the tea into those white porcelain cups she treasures. She said nothing. She just waited. And then I fell apart. I told her everything. Not just about Sophia's birthday, but everything else. The 12 years of small daily deaths, the looks of contempt, the accidents with the coffee, how they had taken my bedroom, how I had spent my last birthday serving ice. I sleep next to the laundry room. Helen, in a room that doesn't even have a real window, just a skylight that lets in the sun and wakes me up at 5 in the morning. Helen set her cup down on the table with a sharp click. "And the house? Whose name is the house in?" I blinked. I hadn't thought about that in years. Arthur left it to me. I think. You think? Helen stood up with an energy I hadn't seen in months. "Margaret, where are the papers for the house?" "In the study, but it's Sabrina's office now." She keeps everything locked. Helen went to her room and came back with a folder. She opened it on the table and pulled out documents I recognized immediately. They were copies of the deeds Arthur and I had signed when we bought the house 38 years ago. When Arthur died, did you sign anything to transfer the property? I searched my memory. I remembered the first few months, the pain, the confusion, the meetings with lawyers, the inheritance papers, the will. No, Arthur left everything to me. There was nothing to transfer. I was the sole heir. Then the house is still in your name, Margaret. Your name, not Matthew's, not Sabrina's, yours. Those words hit me like cold water. For 12 years, I had felt like an uncomfortable guest, like someone who should be grateful for a roof over her head. Sabrina had repeated it to me so many times that I ended up believing it. But the house was mine. You need to see those papers, Helen insisted. You need to know exactly what documents are in that office and why Sabrina has them under lock and key. I stayed at Helen's house that night. And the next and the next. Matthew called on the second day. His voice sounded tense, uncomfortable. Mom, where are you? We are worried. Worried? What a curious word. I'm fine, Matthew. I need time to think. Look, Mom. I already spoke to Sabrina. She overreacted. Okay, you know how she gets when she's stressed with Sophia's party, the expenses, all of it. Come home. We can talk about it. I heard a noise in the background. Sabrina's voice, though I couldn't make out what she was saying. I'm not coming back yet. What? Matthew's voice went up an octave. Mom, don't be dramatic. It's your house, too. My house, too. As if it were a concession. As if they were doing me a favor. Goodbye, Matthew. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were shaking. During those 3 days, Helen and I talked like we hadn't in years. She told me things she had noticed but had never said, respecting my dignity, waiting for me to see it for myself. 2 years ago, at the neighborhood Christmas party, Sabrina told the neighbors you were having memory problems, that you were forgetting things, getting confused. I froze. I don't forget anything, Helen. I know, but she's planting the idea. Preparing the ground for what? Helen looked at me with those grey eyes that had seen too much of the world to declare you incompetent, Margaret, to take everything from you. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in the bed in Helen's guest room, staring at the ceiling, feeling the pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I was assembling begin to fit. The comments about my age, the jokes about my memory, the way Sabrina always interrupted me when I was talking to other people, finishing my sentences, correcting what I said. It wasn't carelessness. It wasn't casual disrespect. It was a plan. On the third day, Helen made scrambled eggs and toast for breakfast. We sat in her small dining room, the morning sun streaming through the window, and she said something that would change everything. I have a nephew, Gregory. He's a lawyer specializing in family law, cases like yours, cases like mine, financial and emotional elder abuse by family members. It's more common than you think, Margaret. And it's a crime. The word crime hit me in the chest. I didn't want to get my son into legal trouble. I just wanted what did I want? Respect. My house back. My life. I don't know, Helen. He's my son and you are his mother. The woman who bore him, raises him, loved him. Doesn't that count? I had no answer for that. That afternoon, Matthew showed up at Helen's house. He brought flowers, the kind they sell at the grocery store, wrapped in cellophane. He looked tired, but not sorry. Mom, enough with the drama. Let's go home. This isn't drama, Matthew. Sabrina is very sorry. She already talked to Sophia. Explained there was a misunderstanding. The girl misses you always, Sophia. They always used my granddaughter as emotional bait. And you, Matthew? What do you think about all this? He shifted uncomfortably in Helen's dining room chair. I think we all got upset, but we are family. Families fight and they forgive. When she screamed at me, you said nothing. You just sat there. I didn't want to make things worse. You didn't want to make your wife uncomfortable. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with truths neither of us wanted to face. Finally, Matthew sighed. What do you want me to do, Mom? Divorce her? Sabrina is the mother of my child, and I was his mother. But apparently that mattered less. I am going home, I said finally. But things are going to change, Matthew. I am going to change. I went back to my house that afternoon. Sabrina was waiting for me in the living room. When she saw me walk in, her eyes filled with tears. She ran to me and hugged me. Margaret, forgive me. I don't know what got into me. The stress, the worries. I said horrible things. Things I didn't mean. Her hug felt fake, like everything else. But I hugged her back because Matthew was watching us from the stairs with hope in his eyes. It's okay, Sabrina. You really forgive me. Her tears were dampening my blouse. Really? But inside, something had changed. As I held her, smelling her expensive perfume and her crocodile tears, I remembered Helen's words. She's preparing the ground to take everything from you. And in that moment, hugging my daughter-in-law, who was crying fake tears, I made a decision. If she was playing chess, I was going to play, too. But she didn't know she had just woken up an opponent who had spent 12 years studying her every move. The first few days after my return were strangely calm. Sabrina acted as if we were best friends. She'd asked if I slept well, poured me coffee in the mornings, even offered to help me make dinner. It was all such a perfect lie. It was almost laughable. Matthew seemed relieved. See, Mom, you just needed to talk. Things can work when we all do our part. I nodded, smiled, played along. But at night, in my room next to the laundry, with the smell of detergent embedded in the sheets, I thought, I planned. I remembered every detail of what Helen had told me. The following Thursday, I went to my quilting meeting. Sabrina didn't object. Of course, Margaret, enjoy your afternoon with the ladies. You deserve it. That kindness made me more nervous than her screaming. At Helen's house, my friends greeted me with hugs and worried looks. They all knew what had happened at Sophia's birthday party. News travels fast in our neighborhood. Are you okay, Margaret? Asked Grace, the youngest of the group, barely 62. I'm learning, I replied. Helen pulled me aside into her kitchen while the others got out their threads and quilting hoops. My nephew, Gregory, wants to talk to you. He says it's urgent. Why urgent? Because he did some digging and he found things, Margaret. Things you need to know. 2 days later, on a Saturday afternoon, while Sabrina and Matthew had taken Sophia to the movies, I went to Gregory's office. It was a modest building downtown, 3rd floor, no elevator. I climbed the stairs with my heart pounding against my ribs. Gregory was a man of about 45 with glasses and a kind smile that reminded me of Helen. He offered me water, coffee, a comfortable chair in front of his desk, which was piled high with files. Mrs. Margaret, he said, my aunt told me about your situation. I did a little research with her permission, and there are things you need to know. He pulled out a folder. He opened it in front of me. Sabrina Hayes, 39 years old, compromised credit history. She owes a total of $180,000 between 3 credit cards, 2 personal loans, and a car loan. I couldn't breathe. $180,000. The interest is eating her alive. Excessive purchases, trips, restaurants. The spending pattern is unsustainable. I thought about all those trips to Miami, the designer clothes, the expensive shoes, the dinners at restaurants where one dish cost what I spent on groceries for a week. That's why she needs the house, I said softly. Exactly. Your house, according to the county assessor, has an approximate value of $850,000. My heart sank. I remembered the email. I had to correct him. I think it's more. I think it's worth millions. Gregory paused. Let me check you're right. The assessment I pulled was old. The current market value is $3,850,000. My correction made it worse. If she manages to sell it, he continued, she can pay her debts and have plenty left over to start a new life. But there's a problem. The house is in my name. Correct? And according to the law, as long as you are alive and of sound mind, no one can touch that property without your consent. The word alive echoed in my head in a way I didn't like. And if someone declared me mentally incompetent, Gregory looked at me with those eyes that had seen too many cases like mine, then your son, as the direct relative, could petition for legal guardianship, and with that guardianship, he could make decisions about your assets, including selling the house. Even if I disagree, if you are declared legally incompetent, your opinion no longer matters under the law. I leaned back in the chair. I felt the walls closing in. My aunt told me Sabrina has been commenting in the neighborhood about your supposed memory problems. I don't have memory problems. I know, but she's building a narrative. Witnesses who can testify that you forget things, that you get confused, that you need supervision. It's a slow but effective process. What can I do? Gregory closed the folder and looked at me directly. Protect yourself. Document everything and be prepared for what's coming. I returned home with my head spinning. $180,000 in debt. My house worth almost $4 million. The pieces fit together with a clarity that made me sick. That night at dinner, Sabrina dropped the bomb. Margaret, we need to talk about something important. Matthew put his fork down. Sophia was playing on her tablet in the living room. We want to remodel the house. It's needed a renovation for years. The bathrooms, the kitchen, the bedrooms, everything. Remodel, I repeated. Yes, we've been saving, but it's not enough. We need about $75,000 to start. $75,000. I don't have that kind of money, Sabrina. But you have the necklace. Her voice was still sweet, but flowslowly steel underneath. That opal necklace you guard so closely.